Namaste and welcome to Satsang tonight. So I didn't want to take up too much time this evening. I just wanted to leave lots of time for questions. We'll go almost straight into question and answers. So if anybody does have a question or something they want to share, if you click on the participants at the bottom of your screen and click on the option there to raise your hand, it'll let me know that you want to ask a question or to share something. Before I do that, I just wanted to really express the gratitude for the love that's been coming, especially from the United States, from everywhere, but the Sangha that's growing in the US is something really amazing is happening there, and it's wonderful, and it's just a lovely thing to be able to get online like this, and hopefully to be able to answer some questions, share some breakthroughs for people that can't always get online with us due to the time difference, or at least can't get online live with us. So I figured we'd just see what questions there are, and then if we have time at the end, perhaps we'll finish with a short meditation, just for a few moments. So if anybody would like to ask a question, then feel free to click on participants and to raise your hand. I'd like to invite questions first from those in the US or anyone that is in a time zone behind the UK who may find it challenging to get on the other satsangs that we do live. So we'll see if anyone wants to ask or share. Otherwise, we'll sit here in silence for an hour, or we can do a meditation. Okay, that's Sharon. Would you like to start?
Why not?
Hi.
Hi, honey. It's great to see everybody here.
Yeah.
You know, I'm noticing that a lot of teachings talk about spiritual bypass, and then some people say there's no spiritual bypass because the ego is inclusive with the self. But I'm noticing, and it was really beneficial, we had something in Awakening together that I really value with, you know, talking about what's coming up. I've noticed that I don't like the president, and yet I'll say, like I'm using him as an example, because I want so much to love everything, and the awareness is more vibrant than ever. It's really my first experience. Things are now feeling alive, but the thoughts and the judgments are still there, and the beliefs. You know, we know the president is really me because they're my thoughts. So I'm looking and I'm saying, okay, where am I not honest? You know, I'm finding it actually funny how this process works, because, you know, the repressing and just being with the feeling and not trying to be ahead of myself is really what this is about, isn't it?
Say that last bit again. Being with the feeling of not trying to what?
Not trying to, you can embrace it, but you don't have to necessarily love it. And, you know, I'm good at loving, you know, I'm a very loving person, but I'm also good at repressing too. And I just want to understand, you know, because it's been very helpful the afternoon I spent with you guys this morning and then in the afternoon. And I just want to, you know, I don't want to, you know, just ignore feelings that are coming up because they're about me, you know.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's I think firstly it helps to know the difference between loving something and liking it or someone. in this particular situation. Loving someone in the truest sense is to recognize the essence of what they are, you know, to recognize everyone is self. Then that is the truest form of love, that there isn't any separation, which you've already acknowledged, you know, and that is
Yeah.
another way
Yeah.
that we can appear. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to like or prefer or even have anything in common with a particular being. You know, we'll still have our individuality, not separateness, but individual way that the self is appearing. And not everyone is going to get on with everyone. That's the beauty of humanity in a way. But we can always love, which is just to accept the essence, what is the core of each of our being. And from that place of love, whatever feelings come up around a certain being or thoughts or any judgments, we can also just be with those. And even if there is a tendency to suppress them as well, those thoughts and feelings, we can love that too. And that's the important thing, you know, is to, whatever our ego is doing, we can accept that's where it's at. That's where we're at in terms of relating to a particular being or how we think and feel. And that acceptance, that love, even if something wants to reject, we can embrace that too, can't we? We can accept that's just where we are in this situation.
Yeah, there's just patterns for me to make everything harder than it is. And it's kind of like, I know what I'm experiencing. The awareness is a stronger presence now.
Mm-hmm.
And in the beginning I was scared, and then it got to a place where I understood it. But yet, you know, I'm not going to lie, because there's no one to lie to, right? There's no one to lie to. And what I've learned in some of the teachings is, if you see something out there you don't like, there's a belief in you that you're not looking at. And I just wonder, you know, if that's true, you know, like.
It can be, you know, if you see some judgment or something in your outer world, it will probably reflect that we're still judging ourselves too much, too harshly. And it's good to, whatever that person or situation makes you feel, is sort of mirroring how you feel about yourself inside. So if you see someone who's being very judgmental, or, you know, sort of irritates you, or doesn't, there isn't a harmony there, let's just say. It's not that we're being that way to other people most times. It's what we're doing to ourselves still, our own self-rejection, our judgmentalism of ourself, which is always a work in progress for most of us.
It is, and embracing also that I do feel, you know, like if I'm sad or if I'm irritated, that's okay. I used to like always say, oh, I'm failing. I'm just never going to get it. You know? And then I've learned different techniques to help that. But I wanted to bring that to you because you know, I don't see any desire to lie, because it's only oneself here and there's nothing outside of me. So it's all me. And so I want to look at it, and I want to be able to be as good to the little girl in me that never got what she needed. You know, even though I continue to work on her, you can work on her forever and you'll never get enough, because you know that's true, unless you let her go. So it's kind of like I do want to be nice to her, because I haven't been always nice to her. I've been very angry.
And the loving is a part of that. It's important that, because when too many of us are trying to, I know I was trying to fix my ego, trying to bring it along, you know, into my awakening, so to speak, but just loving it and accepting where it's at, and that it's not supposed to be able to love unconditionally. That's its job, really, is to love conditionally, you know, ourselves and other beings. And it's never going to be capable of what most people are expecting of it, not because it's wrong or it's bad. It's just not capable of it. So if you can love that and accept that, then the loving it is kind of just leaving it alone, no longer trying to constantly change it or to push it away, you know, as a rejection of that. It's just, if you can just accept that's where my ego is at when it comes to this being, this person, or even myself, And we don't have to judge the judging. You know, there might be judging going on, but you don't have to respond by rejecting that. You've got a choice to love that, to accept. Everybody's ego judges, everybody's. There's no magic fix to that ever. And I never managed to find one except to just accept that's a part of me, that's an old way of thinking, and rejecting it is not going to, you know, it's not who I want to be anymore. I want to love it. And then it just, the more you love it, the more distance you seem to get from it, because you're not putting so much attention on it. You know, it's much easier just to accept that's what ego is, and focus on what you really are, and just leave it be. You know, it's not inherently bad. It's just how it is.
Thank you. And the other thing is, like, if we, you know, as the awareness, we're the infinite, then we are the grace that heals us, really.
Yeah.
Do I have that right?
Yeah,
So the
there
little
is
me,
only you, and that's why grace is available in every single moment. It's just waiting for that opening. You know, it's just another name for you in a way. It seems magical and mystical because we're not aware that it's we feel we're sort of taught somehow that we have to do something to be worthy of that grace, and yet in every second it's waiting to just waiting for an opening. When there's a lack of judgment or something, there's an opening in the energy then, and something wonderful can happen, in a miracle in that moment.
Thank you. That was very helpful. Thanks, Helen.
Good questions. Thank you. Lovely. We'll go to Dawn.
Hi, Helen. Thank you.
Hi.
A couple days ago, I live here in Florida, Tampa, Florida, and our mayor enacted a law that only recently came to be where everyone is mandatory to wear a facial mask.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting extremely triggered by this. So much so that I feel like protesting and not even going and shopping unless it's absolutely mandatory. Like, fine, you won't get my money then. Because for me, the mask is like a symbol of another symbol of separation. And I don't really believe it even works anyways. I believe if you're going to get the virus, the COVID, you're going to get it. And I'm pretty sure most people aren't like taking their masks home and washing them and doing everything. And they're probably just, as they take it off, getting germs on their hands. And then, you know, so for me, I feel like it's a maneuver. See where my mind is kicking in is it's a maneuver to take away my freedoms. And I think I've been under the delusion for quite some time. I grew up with this philosophy: America was the land of the free and the home of the brave, and we have all these freedoms and we have all these choices and all these rights. And I'm seeing with this mandatory law, like, okay, so what happened yesterday is my boyfriend went to go get us sandwiches from a local store, and a person was not allowed to go in because they didn't have a mask and they refused to wear a mask. So it's like an obvious symbol of rejection. And I don't want to wear it. I don't like that thing on my face. And so I'm having a real hard time. I'm having a lot of anger coming up that they're forcing this on me, and that my freedoms are being taken away, and that they're just lying to us, all of America, saying we're the land of the free, and we are not. And then the next thought is, what are they going to do to us next? Mandatory vaccines? And then what then? Because I don't want to do it. And so that's where I'm at. And I'm wondering how I can use this anger, this upset, the mask, the whole thing as a way for me to heal, as a way for my awakening, as a way for me to break through this insanity that's seemingly on the outside, even though I know it isn't. I know it's all the one being. So if you could share anything, that would be amazing.
So yeah, it's the first thing is probably to recognize, which you've said, that it's an opportunity. You know, it's also something we don't want, perhaps, but it's an opportunity there spiritually to everything that's going to come. It can be used either to reinforce your egoic sense of self or to get clear on what you really are. And if you're using it for that, then you're not going to suffer through it. And if you look at what is it that you really don't like about this, if we really get clear, it's the sense that something is limiting you, something is restricting you, and how that is being sort of triggered could be anything at all. This situation is the current thing that's going on. But what you said is there's a lot of anger, which is really some story inside that's saying I'm being blocked from what I want. And you mentioned the word freedom. And of course, liberation is the ultimate freedom. And what we don't like is feeling limited anymore, which is why we're even in satsang, so there's a sense of being limited, of kind of having your wings clipped, that we don't really like. That's the core here, what's going on. So if we can put our attention on that, because we may not be able to change the outside circumstances, right in this moment, but if we're clear, we can see that that's not really what's upsetting us. It's the idea that something can affect me, something can limit me, something can block me, restrict me. And we so much value freedom first and foremost, that it's got that sting to it when I feel limited or somebody's boxing me in. So we can ask that question, of me and my questions. Is it really true I'm limited at all by anything? Just to ask that question, can anything restrict me or limit me at all? We can do it right now. And immediately the sense of being limited will begin to shift, because who you really are cannot be restricted. Things can happen to your body, and things can happen to your mind, but not to you. Nothing can impose anything upon you, you that is everywhere. Can you get a sense of it with the question? It's gone right to the core of, nobody likes to feel limited, and there is no greater freedom than being the formless self and having recognized that consciously, and then noticing that what comes then at you is going to push some buttons where there's still a thought being believed. And in this situation, that I can be restricted. What's happening is happening to your body. And I don't really want to get into the right or wrongs of the politics of it, but spiritually speaking, in terms of awakening, can you really be limited? Can you be restricted? It feels like being a someone again, doesn't it? That's the feeling. And it comes down in the end to two very simple states. I'm either believing I'm limited, or I'm experiencing my unlimited nature. And you may not sort of have the sense I'm unlimited and everywhere, but there'll be peace. In the moment something seems to affect you that way, there'll be some strong negative reaction. So I suggest this question, perhaps even just now, there's some opening from, can I really be restricted or limited? Is it really true? I used to get it around finances. I'd feel very limited. Other situations as well. And I really had to sit with this question, can I be limited by anything? And then you can walk through any situation in life with the same sense of freedom inside, without sort of getting, it's good that the emotion is arising, but obviously we prefer to feel unlimited. That's what that emotion is telling you, and that's completely in your control. Nobody can take that away from you.
I just have a little something to add. It's like part of part 2 question.
Yeah.
So let's just say that, because I find your questions that you've given me thus far so powerful. And so I can see myself probably wearing the mask, feeling peace inside, and that's evidence of the inquiry process. But then there's this little nagging voice saying, but you've given up. You're just resigning. You're just doing what they're saying. And I don't know what part that is. It's like almost like this fighter in me that's got to like stand up for my rights and stand up for truth and stand up for freedom and not let them take it away. So am I, and the thing I have is, am I giving away? I mean, I feel like if I'm feeling peace and I'm wearing the mask, aren't I just giving in? Like, I don't know.
So you notice very good there. You notice the ego it sees two options and it wants to know which one. And it automatically assumes that if I do the inner work around this, I'm not going to do anything, that if I come to a state of peace inside myself, that I'm just going to accept whatever is given to me. And it's just not like that at all. You might find yourself even more moved to take action or to do something from the undivided place. And whatever action you take or whatever you do will be so much more effective and powerful because you're coming from a place of love rather than a fear of, I don't want to be controlled, I don't want to be, that sense of limitation. And so it's just to notice where ego is trying to pick, do I do the inner work or the outer action? And really, you can't do the inner work without some outer thing coming from it, because out there is your reflection. So if you're at peace within yourself, more and more your experiences in the world are going to have to reflect that peace. And just to notice, one of the main reasons that we choose not to do this inner work is because we feel somehow it's being very passive, or being just avoid, mind says you're just avoiding the problem. If you're happy and peaceful, you're not going to do anything about this. And it's usually exactly the opposite. I found, in my own life, I've been much more able to take action I needed to take, to say things I needed to say, sometimes long overdue things that I could never have said from that separate, divided place. So, do the question inside and see what comes out of that. Some change can come from that will benefit everyone that's involved around you. And it'll be from a place of love. So it'll be some form of healing, something. What that looks like, we don't know. But it's not possible to do the inner work and have absolutely nothing happen on the outside. So it's only this idea that it's going to, you're just putting your head in the sand, doing the ostrich thing, and it's not true. It's how mind sees it, because it sees one or two options and it wants to know which one to do. But by doing the inner work with the question, it's going to change everything. How can you ever make a change in the world when you're in turmoil inside? It's just, and what's going to happen when you're in that peaceful place, and you go out into the world? It's going to have an effect on a lot of beings. Very good. Have fun with it too. Lovely. We'll go to Doreen.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you as well. So I have two things I wanted to mention. One is, last week I had a very tense interaction with a colleague. We made it through. I mean, we're trying to understand where each other is coming from. And I remember, okay, my internet is saying I'm unstable. You can hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's a little broken, but mostly I can
Okay.
get.
Okay. So we had this tension, and then that evening I was up. I definitely had a lot of thoughts about it, but I also had a very deep sense of calm, to the extent where I was curious about it, but I was also suspect of it. I was like, what is this calm? Is this a legitimate calm? Is it a sense of aloofness? Am I really caring that I'm this calm in the midst of this? So it almost felt like it was a layer of calm, and there was a layer of thoughts about the situation happening simultaneously.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious about the calm. And like, I know it sounds crazy, but it's like, was it legitimate? Is this the calm of the truth of who I am? Or is it the ego hijacking the calm? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do, absolutely. It's a really good question. We've for so long experienced one or the other. You know, when we've experienced some calm or peace, it's been momentary. But as your awakening deepens, as you begin to, your identity is shifting slowly, meaning who you know yourself to be is changing. So less and less you're coming from the egoic sense of I have to get to the self, and more there's a background sort of knowing that I'm not really what I thought I was, and that's a deepening thing. Then it's quite possible to have a sense of calm, even in amongst the worst, most challenging of negative emotions. And I didn't really think this was possible until I experienced one day there's a lot of fear, and really intense fear, and there was actually peace and bliss at the same time. And it was just amazing. I didn't realize that that was possible, because there was this, as we were talking about to start off with, just this acceptance and an ability to love that had obviously developed, worked on, love what my ego was feeling. And in that acceptance and not trying to reject that fear at all, there was this peace which developed into a bliss. And there's just no urge at all to get rid of the fear. And obviously it's not quite as extreme what you're saying, but it is how it begins, that there's something, it feels almost like you're splitting two, because the old sense of ego is still functioning, obviously. And let me tell you, the ego cannot be calm, you know, so it can't be ego pretending. You know, its very nature is to push against things, isn't it? Or to, again, I'm not making it wrong, it's just it cannot be in acceptance of what is, you know, which is the symptom of that is peace or calmness. It's probably that you're starting to notice the peace that's in the background. The more it's noticed, that the more it seems to move to the foreground. And what happens is gradually what was right in front of us, this disturbance of thoughts and all of that, moves just into the background, and the peace begins to move to the front, you know. So it's a strange thing when it first happens, isn't it? Because you think, hang on, what's going on here?
Yeah, it's a feeling like, is it okay to feel this way?
Yeah.
Considering
Absolutely.
the circumstance, it's like, is it okay to be calm in this tension? Like, I think sometimes there's a default setting that we're supposed to be a certain way when certain things happen, and then all of a sudden you're feeling very calm about it, and it's just, it's different. That's what I can say. It's just different.
Yeah,
So,
and you know, it was the same for me in my own awakening. There were some times when previously I would have been extremely disturbed, and I was just very, very peaceful. And you know, with what's going on in the world today, there's a belief in many people it's not okay for me to be peaceful when everyone else is suffering. But you know, we have to really look at that. Is it really serving anyone for me to be disturbed still? As we were saying before with Dawn, you know, what happens when I approach this same situation from this place of peace? And you probably noticed even in the interaction that you were speaking about, that you were able to handle it from a different place. And it didn't, you've got more resources available than inside. Your actions and your words can be fair and firm, but loving at the same time. You know, it can come from a very different place. So it's just to look at that. Is that really how it is, that I'm not supposed to be feeling calm right now? We're just so habituated, aren't we, to feeling bad almost, that we don't really accept it's even possible to feel peaceful. And then when we start to experience it, we don't even accept it's the right thing, it's the best thing. But your peace in that moment is going to affect the other being, even if it's just a calmness. It's not going to escalate into something, you know. If you were both sort of really disturbed in your inner thoughts and feelings, it would have been a very different interaction, and you'll actually see the effect on the other being developing as your own peace deepens.
Yeah. And I think that's what I'm witnessing now, because it is evolving. The tension is between me and this person is dissolving. And I remember in the thinking while the calm was happening, there was part of me that was saying that everything's going to be okay. And when I say everything is going to be okay, I don't mean that we're going to get along, or it's just like whatever happens is going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so I kind of held on to that, but not knowing the implications of what could occur out of it. I mean, it could have gone so many, in terms of what could happen for me, could go in so many different directions. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be okay with whatever direction this goes. And
in that lack of projection around it, it's got space then to evolve into something, hasn't it?
yes.
There's a higher possibility available then.
Yeah. And so the other thing I wanted to share, unrelated to this, just the sharing, I noticed that, sometimes I lose things, right? And I lost something in the house, and one day I just sat on my bed. I was like, okay, if I am all that there is, right? Surely the part of me that is my glasses, surely I'll be able to find it, right? If
Yeah.
it's me, I should be able to find it. And so I did that, and within less than 30 seconds, I don't know if it popped in my head where it was, but it's like my body took me there.
Yep.
And this happened 3 times already. So it's just
It's
a
very,
really
very
interesting
useful when you've
experience.
lost your car keys or something, It's a very practical
Yeah.
thing, awakening. It's like, okay, if I stop trying to find where it is and just accept I must know where it is somewhere in my being, and it just pops up like that.
And it's been immediate. And it's not like, oh, it's here, Doreen. It doesn't, and there is not a voice that says it. Just, I get up and suddenly I am walking to where it is and I find it.
Yeah.
So anyway, just sharing that experience.
That's wonderful. It really is. It's thanks for sharing that, because there's lots of little tiny miracles that happen like that, as the awakening deepens. That may seem, it may be like, okay, I've lost this, I'm just gonna, ask to find it and then let it go. And it might be, okay, I'm gonna get up and go in the kitchen to get a drink. But then when you go in the kitchen, you find what you're looking for anyway, and so your body always is connected to the one, is always, it's only really up here with the thoughts. There's something deeper going on underneath, isn't there? And it's very deeply practical awakening in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I like it.
Oh yeah, it gets better and better. So well done, and thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
Betsy?
Hello.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Thank you. You too. I've been listening to you now for about a month, and I'm fairly addicted. I've practiced a lot of the inquiry around, do I really need this? Do I really need that? Is it really true? And I've had quite a bit of good experience with it. I wondered if you could just speak to, I've had some experiences of the last few days where one day I did an inquiry. I think it was something like, is it really true I'm not good enough? And I worked through that and got kind of to the bottom of it, at least for that moment. And felt really good about how that played out. And then shortly after that, I got really triggered by something, and there was no way I could do one of those inquiries. In fact, what I was drawn to do was a video, a guided meditation from somebody else who talks about your core needs, finding your core needs, which felt like it was very much in contradiction to what you're teaching. But that was all I wanted to do, is just curl up in a ball and listen to that little meditation like 3 or 4 times till I could calm down. And then I could return to, is it really true that I need blah, blah, blah. So I think what happens in my mind is, well, I'm doing something wrong, or I'm not ready for this. It really kind of gets me at a, deep place of insecurity and unworthiness, I think, around being worthy to awaken. So I just want to make sure I'll let you speak to that, and then I may have a little more to add, but I think I've said what I could say. So
It's good. And it's very, very common, very common. And the first thing you can do is accept completely that you still get triggered by something, right? That you don't have to be Superwoman, that the best will in the world, all of us are going to get triggered by something. And when that happens, we have a choice how to handle it. We can either use it as evidence that we're not where we want to be yet, or we can accept there's an opportunity happening. So the difference between an awakened being and someone who's coming from ego is not whether they're triggered or not, it's how they handle that. So you can step into that awakening right now in this moment in the moment that something comes up by, let's say something happens, some strong emotion comes up, and immediately arising almost at the same time as the emotion comes some urge to use it to beat ourselves up, that almost immediately, isn't it, that sense? So can you just accept that with some emotions is going to come this egoic response as well? And does that have to define you in that moment? Can you just accept both of those as something that are involuntary? Like if I tapped on your knee, your leg would shoot up, in a reflex response. What if the egoic urge to reject or to judge or to use that to define yourself is just another reflex response? Can you view it like that? It's just some emotions come up and you'll be able to completely just accept them, love them. Some emotions come up and you can completely accept them, and ego judges them too. Can you see that can just be another thing that's arising in that moment? Instead of what most of us try to do is to say, well, because this urge from ego is arising, I'm failing in my awakening. This shouldn't be arising if I was awakened. But the difference is, from the awakened place, there is whatever arises, there's no ability to reject it. So right now already, you have the ability to completely accept that egoic response. It's just what is in that moment. And it doesn't mean anything. It's just to really look at that. There's this idea inside most of us that, I don't know, awakened beings, I had it too, that awakened beings somehow have figured out how to get rid of this egoic urge to, it's either pushing against or it's holding on to, isn't it? And when some strong negative emotion arises or something's triggered, it usually, I don't want that, and mind will start to say, well, this shouldn't be happening if you were where you want to be. See, you're failing, you're not good enough. But those same things happen for an awakened being along the pathway. The difference is they've just worked on completely accepting that egoic response as well as just a biological thing that happens until it doesn't. And it doesn't mean, and it's not used to define them. So you can do that right now. When that happens, it just happens. An emotion pops up, and so does ego. And so what? Does it mean anything to you? It doesn't have to. Not in a cold way, but it doesn't have to be evidence that you're failing. It's really up to you in that moment then, because mind will have thoughts about what it means. But you can say, well, I'm not really sure that means I'm failing. Is it really true that an awakened being never feels any negative emotions along the way at all? Is it really true they're never triggered ever? Or is it just that it's just no different when it happens than the rain falling out of the sky, or a car driving past? It's just, oh look, there's a trigger, and it's completely allowed in that moment, completely. Can you get a sense of it?
Yeah, I think what comes up is just not quite knowing how to come to terms with the very different responses. Like one moment I can do an inquiry, and the next minute that's the last thing in the world that I want or even feel like I need. Like it just, I can't even ask a question, do I really need? All I can think is, I need something, and I need to,
In that
do
case,
this
you can turn it into,
meditation about needs.
yeah, you can take that sense of I need and ask then, what's the best way to fulfill that need? Where's the best place to get, because most of it, it's I need to be loved, or I need to be recognized or appreciated, or I need to feel safe, the very basic needs that we have. And in that moment, there's an opportunity when the sense is so strong. Where is the best place to get this from? Or is it true that I can't find it inside? Really sort of to turn. We're not negating that sense, but we're just looking for it in the most intelligent way. And any sense of need can be worked from that place. There's an ever-flowing source of everything we need from the inside. If we're not fighting that need as it arises, it can be very strong. The urge to be loved, or to feel loved or safe or approved of, can be very, very strong. But it has to come from our own self first. Meaning you don't have to know how to do that. You just have to, it must be possible for me to feel how I want to feel in this moment. And then just leave an opening for that to happen without trying to change anything at all in that moment.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. So in other words, in a moment when I'm really triggered and I feel like I'm needing something, it is a healthy thing to do, to at least ask what is it that I need. I may not get it full. I may not be able to find it within myself, but at least to ask is a healthy thing to do on this
And
path.
you did that even with the meditation. There was an urge to nourish yourself, to nurture yourself in the best way that you could in that moment. And if you felt you couldn't ask the question in that moment, there was still an urge to help yourself somehow. So to ask what is it that I need, to get clear on that even. And then what helped me was, is it true it's not here actually? Because if we try to look for it out in the world or in our relationships, we'll feel disappointed. So just to get clear on what you actually want or need in that moment, and then just to be open to the fact it might be here already. Just that opening itself is going to begin to, you won't be in such strong opposition to the moment, because if you're saying something isn't here in this moment, it's actually a self-rejection, because you are that thing you're wanting. So it's a self-negation, which is why it feels so horrible. You're actually saying, I'm not here in this moment, which, it feels terrible. So if you can just go, what is it I really need? And I'm open to see if it's actually here, because the core assumption of mind is that it isn't here. And that's part and parcel of the need feeling, isn't it? It's not here right now.
Yeah.
The more there's an opening to just allow, is it, it might be here, I don't know. And if it isn't, it isn't. If it is, it is. But I'd like to just actually find out, because then the need feeling has to begin to diminish, because it's a very strong rejection of this moment to say I need. We all do it, of course, but it's about as opposite to who you authentically are as you can get. to say that you know, to that strong conviction. But the moment you're willing to question, or there's an openness even, you know, let me actually see if I do need. So it's not that we're pushing that feeling away, we're just working with it in a different way.
Right, because when we're asking, is it really true that I need something? It's kind of like asking, is it really true that I need something coming from outside? It's not that I don't need it, it's just that I don't need it coming from outside. And that asking, asking, is it really true that I need it? Or asking, what is it that I really need? Both can lead to the same place of that openness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is here in potential. You know, you are the unmanifest awareness. So it is here, it just hasn't taken a shape yet. And how it takes a shape into manifestation, so what shows up out here and how you feel in here, it is dictated by what we're sure about. So if we're sure I need, it cannot show up that way. It literally cannot manifest that way because your word is law as the self. So if we're just willing to give a little opening around that sense of I need, then it can actually come into manifestation. Just means what was invisible becomes visible or tangible, you know, noticeable, because it's here already. We're just dictating how it's going to actually take a shape. So it goes from potential to actual. So you can actually feel it. And the absence of I need will be felt as peace. You know, the absence of need is peace, isn't it? You're no longer disturbed or in conflict or in rejection of this moment. So you may not ever get a sense up here of I've got what I need, but there'll be a peace that's answering that question more and more, an experiential answer to that question. So if you
can't go ahead.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, is it a sense that I don't need because it's already here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not here. You know, and most of us say, and that's what it means to be the invisible and tangible self. It must be here because I am all things in potential, not yet in actuality. But if we recognize it's here but hasn't taken a visible or a noticeable shape, then firstly, we're not going to be fighting so much with the sense I need. And also, as you said, we're not going to be trying to get it from out there or from someone else. And we're open then for it to show up in a way that's dependable, i.e. from our own self, so that we're coming to the rest of our life from a place of fullness where we're not relating to other beings from I need, you know, and expecting them to give us what they feel they don't have as well. Can you get a sense of that?
Yeah.
Good. It's a form of love, really, what we're talking about, isn't it? Just to be, you know, why am I so sure it's not here? You know, is also a good question. It's easy to agree that it's not here in that moment when the need comes, and if that happens, it happens. It's fine. You know, it doesn't mean that you're failing at awakening. It just means there's still a strong feeling of I need. That's all it means. You know, it doesn't have to define your self-worth or how far along the path you are, you know, any of that. An awakened being would just say it doesn't mean anything. Something triggered and then there was an I need. That's all that occurred. No self-definition taken from it at all. Can you get a sense of that? It just happened. That's all.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Thank you.
Lovely. Good share. Did that answer your question fully? Did you have anything else you wanted to?
Yeah, I think I need to listen to this again later, but I feel calmer, so I think that's a good place to stop.
It comes down to some places we feel we won't be able to apply all of the teaching, and we can love ourselves there, right there, can't we? It doesn't have to mean anything good or bad.
Yeah, and what I got to with it is actually I was applying the teaching. I was just using a different avenue, and it took me to the same place in openness where I wasn't obsessed about the need.
Yeah. Whichever way you get there is whichever way you get there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. All roads lead home, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely. Good question. Thank you. Lovely. Are there any other questions from anyone? Anybody want to ask a question? I'll take questions from anywhere at this point now. Loretta? Yep.
Can you hear me?
I can. Nice to meet you.
Okay. You too. I just like a little clarification on karma and reincarnation, because if there's no one in the body, well, where can karma come from, and who can be reincarnated?
It's a very good question. So there is only the one self, which is everywhere, as we're coming to understand. But that one self can be convinced as a human being that it's a separate being. So even though it isn't actually a separate being, it believes it is. So it forms this little, it starts to identify with the body and thoughts and everything. And as it begins to deepen, it gets more and more complex in its thoughts about itself. It's sure that it is a separate being. And it will think that it was born and that it dies, and then it's had all these succession of bodies. So did that really happen? Well, yes, because the self believed it was being born and died, up through this progression. And also no, because it never actually really was separate. It's probably as clear as mud. But if you are everywhere and you believe you're a separate being, then you will feel that you are responsible for your choices, your actions, your deeds, and that the result of those actions will bring either positive or negative karma to that being, to you, to yourself. Upon realizing that you were never separate, that also undoes all the karma that has accrued to that, seemingly separate being. So the self is everywhere and there's only one, but it believes itself to be this limited separate being, and it believes it's moving through time and space. So it could say there's the one infinite being. It's having all these little dreams. It's having 7.5 billion dreams right now as a human being. The one being having all these dreams, and in each dream it really is convinced it's separate and moving through life and existence, and either doing loving things or unkind things, and accumulating the results of that. So there can be bodies coming and going, lifetimes happening. That doesn't necessarily mean a separate being. It seems that it's a paradox that as the self believes it's a separate being, it seems to have to go through all these lifetimes to get to the point where it realizes it never was actually separate at all. But to do that, paradoxically, it seems to have to go through all these lifetimes. So is it real reincarnation? Yes, if the self believes it's a separate being, it's very real then to it. But once it's realized it never was separate, then it kind of undoes all of the karma and all of the idea of reincarnation. It's not an easy one to understand because it's a yes and no answer. You as the self are so powerful. If you believe you're a separate being, then it's all true for you. You will feel the results of your actions and your choices. Can you get a sense of it?
I do. So the reincarnation part, you end up with your own stuff that you thought you did in the last lifetime? Okay.
Yeah, every unfulfilled desire that we had in the last lifetime, we carry into this body. Reincarnation, it really literally means just another body, and we'll be given a chance in this lifetime to fulfill those. So for myself in this lifetime, there was a strong desire to be loved, to be accepted, and a really strong desire to feel safe. So in previous lifetimes, I've probably gone about that by trying to get it from the outside in, as we were talking about with the previous question. But in this lifetime, there's been an urge to look for that, from the inside. And with that comes the realization that I'm not separate to anything at all, you know, as the awakening deepens. And then you can kind of see, but I never really was a separate being, and each human being's existence is my existence too, you know. So is karma real? Well, yes, if I believe it is and I'm going through it, because I really will feel the effects of my actions if I believe I'm a separate being, and the accrued, you know, beliefs from all these lifetimes there'll be to work on. But the moment there's a realization that you aren't really separate from anything, all of that is kind of null and void, and time is seen to be an illusion, you know, based on the idea that I'm a separate being here, time and lifetimes and journeying and all of that.
Okay, so basically, if you really feel connected and think you're connected, then there can't be any hidden karma that you don't know about to clear up.
So some of it will come up, but only to look at again from, so let's say, you know, a desire in this lifetime to feel worthy. Once I've realized I'm not a separate being, that desire to be worthy may come up again, but for me to look at from the real place. Is that true? Is that something I even have to fulfill now as the self? It was a very real thing that I was trying to achieve as an egoic, you know, a separate someone. So it may come up after awakening, but only really to look at from the true place to resolve. And that's why there are no desires then that carried into, you know, that would cause another incarnation, because they're only true for someone. You can't be lacking in anything as the self inside.
Okay, thank you very much.
Does that help?
It does.
Good, lovely, good question.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
I will go to Lopo.
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
Thank you. Loved all the questions and the answers. Like, it's been brilliant, and the shares. I was going to ask about like practical things. So when to do practical things, and like, so I've had like, I mean, one of them was like my own fault. Like, I flooded my kitchen the other day because I was hoovering, and then I forgot I'd left like the tap on in the kitchen sink. But like, at the moment, like, I've got an issue with like the bathroom, and it's coming through like the ceiling sort of stuff. So that's quite, but like when that was all happening and stuff, I didn't have any sort of like, oh no, you know, sort of like all that sort of stuff. I was just like, I just got on and like sorted it. But that like, you know, like just other stuff. When do you, well, I do anyway at the moment, but like, when do you do stuff like, you know, it's things to like sort out? So like, an example, like I do really need to, well, say that, but I feel like I need to change my internet provider, because I'm starting to chair meetings and stuff on Zoom, and it's very sort of in and out. So like, do I do that, or do I like leave it, or yeah?
Yes and no. It's one of those yes and no questions. You know, it can be that, you know, you write a list of things you need to do today, but there is a flexibility in that it might not happen in that order. And I've found it's you know, it's something you have to do that you know you should be getting on with before. I would use it to unconsciously to, you know, to feel not good enough because I didn't get up and do it. Now there'll be this sense that something needs to get done, and there's just a relaxation completely that when it's time for it to happen, it will happen.
Yeah.
And when it does happen, I'm often as surprised as anyone. I just see my body going to do it, and oh, it must be time for it to occur then. And it's not necessarily the time that you would think it was going to happen, you know, but the actions are much more effective from that place. So it's not that you can't plan anything or, you know, have a to-do list as the self, but there is a lot of flexibility in it, meaning that there's an awareness that everything is happening in a certain way. And let's say I tried to do something online and it didn't work, you know, something was going wrong. There'll be, before I would have carried on trying to do it and got really upset and angry at why, frustrated at why I couldn't do it. Now I might try a couple of times, and then there's a realization it's not the right time to do it. and just
Yeah.
a letting go of it. And then at some point I'll find myself coming back to it.
Yeah, because like when so like like lots of things that have, you know, sort of been on a, like a to-do list, like been in my head. I don't really write it down, but like it hasn't, you know, I have been able to go, do you know what, didn't do that today, all right, no worries,
Yeah.
you know, sort of thing. And it wasn't a, you know, a desperate sort of thing to, or, you know, if I haven't done something that I've sort of planned to do that day, then it's all right, isn't it, you know, sort of thing. So it's it's been okay. So yeah, I guess it's like maybe that need and want sort of thing as well, you know. Because especially like around the internet, I've been like, it's a sort of need, but actually I've not got on and done it. You know, it's been a couple of weeks and I've not got on and done it. So, and it's,
So they can relax into that, knowing that when it needs to happen, it will happen.
yeah,
You know, mind kind of goes, well, you're just avoiding. But there's also, the more you're sort of get a little distance from your mind, the more you'll feel a sense of it's the right time for something to happen, or it's just not the right time.
yeah,
You know,
I
you get
do.
sometimes
Yeah.
you'll even get an energy rush in the body, and it means it's about to go do something, or extra energy in the body. You know, like, oh, you know, something will just happen, and more and more life moves that way. I mean, of course, we have to plan like we plan to have satsang at this time. We can't just say, look, I'll just get online when I feel like it and hope everyone else has the same feeling. You know, there's obviously some planning, but there's a spontaneity around it. If it didn't happen for whatever reason, there would be a reason for that. You know, and life is still planned on an everyday way. But if it doesn't happen, that is because life isn't moving that way at the time.
Yeah, I definitely get a sense of that at the moment, you know. And it's really nice. It's just sort of but yeah, I wasn't sure if I was then, if I should have been doing it a different way, but I do have a sense of that. So I was trying to find the polyfiller, you know, yesterday, and I ended up sorting out my downstairs cupboard, you know, because I couldn't find it. But actually that was cool, do you know what I mean? And there's no issues there. But just sort of asking around that. Yeah, that's really good. Thank you, Helen.
Very good, very good. There's a natural way that everything wants to unfold, you know, and you can kind of orient your life from there, you know, that just to know what needs to be done, and then just to wait to see when the best time is to do it. And you waste a lot less energy then, you know. I should be doing this right now.
That's,
you know,
really affirming.
when it needs to get done, it will be done, you know, and done very quickly and effectively. Mine goes,
like
you're just procrastinating. Sorry. You know, mine says you're procrastinating, you're never going to get anything done. But it's really, you know, you find yourself just sat there with no urge to do anything when mine says you should be, and then the opposite will happen as well. You know, that I really you know, get up and clean my entire house in an hour, which never happened as a separate being ever. And like, wow, that was really actually fun. But if I'd have said, right, I'm going to do it now, you know, it would have been from a very different place. You know, but you just find yourself doing it.
I was going to say about the cleaning, like, it's so quick now. Do you know what I mean? And it's it just happens, and it's cool. It's
deeply
lovely,
practical. Yeah, you need to clean your house. You've lost your car keys. You know, awakening sorts it out, definitely. Very good.
Thank you, Helen.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay. So I thought we would finish tonight with a quick meditation. So let me just there we go. So we'll just take a few minutes just to finish. It'd be lovely to spend a few moments just noticing that real self that we are. So wherever you are, if you want to join in with this meditation, it doesn't matter if your eyes are open or closed, as long as you're comfy. Probably best not to lay down in case we nod off to sleep. So we're just going to spend some time noticing what is. So we're going to just step back for a moment from trying to change anything, trying to change either in here, my thoughts, my feelings, or out there. So whatever is happening inside, whatever is happening outside right now, I can hear the rain dropping against the window. I can feel my own heartbeat. I can notice my own breathing. So we're just going to notice what is in this moment. And even if thoughts arise or some emotion arises, just going to let whatever arises to come and to go in its own time. So we're just allowing whatever wants to happen in this moment. And we're letting go of any intention just for this time to make anything different than it is, to make ourselves different than we are. So whatever internal sounds of thought is happening, wherever it's happening in your environment, just simply not trying to change, not trying to feel better, not trying to be more awake in this moment. Just noticing and allowing your attention to go wherever it goes. It may wander to thoughts, it may wander to a noise in your environment, a sound. You may notice a feeling in your body. You may wander back to these words. And just making no attempt at all for this time to change anything. Just noticing what is arising in this moment. Allowing your body, your mind to be as it is right now, completely. Noticing too how your body feels, how your body responds when you're not in argument with this moment, when you're not saying how it should be or how you should be. What happens to all of this when you simply allow it to be? It doesn't matter whether your mind is thinking or not, whether there is positive or negative emotion. Just the allowance of that to completely be as it is. Just a loving acceptance of yourself, of this moment, of your internal and external environment. And if mind arises and wants to change something, we can completely accept that thought too. Noticing how it feels to not be in argument with this moment, with yourself at all. Even if something argues inside, completely give that space to happen. Completely. Just in this moment being 100% authentic, whatever that looks like, whatever that feels like. Just a noticing of what is, just a noticing of this moment and whatever is happening in it. Naturally, when we allow ourselves to not be in argument, in resistance, there's a relaxation that occurs in the body and a contentment that begins to appear inside. Whatever happens just happens. Whatever moves is just moving. Whatever comes is just allowed to come. What's it like when you can't or you won't try to change anything in this moment? What does self-acceptance feel like in this moment? There's no idea that you should be any different than you are right now. That anything, any of this, should be different than it is right now. Any moment we can be in opposition with what is, or we can simply allow it to be how it is. The more authentically we are allowing this moment to be, the more this moment, what's appearing in it, will begin to appear in a way that we enjoy. Just a letting go of any intention or need to change anything for this time. As if who you are in this moment is already exactly how you're supposed to be. How this is in this moment is exactly how it's supposed to be. Noticing how nice it feels, how healing it is for your body, for your mind, to just love yourself as you are in this moment. as if our life was an opportunity to simply learn to love. Each moment is an opportunity to not be in opposition with ourselves, with our mind, with our world. And to notice that when we allow this moment its own authenticity, that naturally it begins to right itself. Whatever thoughts arise, wherever attention wanders, whatever states come and go, we just give them 100% permission to exist. And our life can be this endless invitation in each moment to simply be with what is. When we're simply being with what is in this moment, then what will be will surprise and delight us. Most importantly, we'll feel whole and complete. We'll feel present and relaxed. So anytime that anything arises, outside or inside, it can be an opportunity to learn to love more, to learn to be with what is. So as we bring this meditation to a close, we begin to open our eyes, we move around, go back into our world, our life. Let's take our satsang with us. Let's take our acceptance of this moment wherever we find our body going. That whatever arises inside, whatever occurs outside, can be the extension of our meditation, of our satsang. Thank you. Namaste.